If you had met me 6 years ago, I was a partner at a downtown Seattle law firm. And my life was good. And I think most people would say it was successful. But there was something inside of me that really lacked meaning and purpose. So I ended up by taking what was then a 2-year sabbatical, and I moved to Africa. While I was in Africa, I lived with families, and they completely transformed my heart, my soul, my mind. Spiritually, I believe that God has given each one of us a unique purpose, a calling. My heart was drawn to Afghanistan after September 11th.
There's another building. It's been destroyed by the war.
And one of the things that had happened was the elimination of schools during the time of the Taliban, and most particularly the effect of that on girls. And so when I came back to Seattle, I was drawn towards building schools for girls. So I started and adopted an Afghan school program that would not only teach kids in the United States about the culture in Afghanistan, but I also wanted to teach children back in Afghanistan about us. I have probably given 100 presentations all over the United States to teach communities, children, families about Afghanistan. And in return, many of those children and their families have been raising pennies, nickels, and dimes to build schools for the children in Afghanistan. And we're starting our 4th school. That's a photo of women walking in Mazar-i-Sharif. It's probably 120 degrees there, and the women are wearing their burqas. This is a little doll of a woman wearing a burqa. I'm just going to demonstrate for you. Let's see. And it virtually becomes a tarp over her face. When the school closed for the summer, we had heard that there were over 950 students who had attended. The attendance had grown from 420 to 900 and some. And the number of teachers grew from 6 to 20. So it was a huge success. Before the school opened, the literacy rate for girls and women in Afghanistan was about 6%. And I feel called to be a voice for the voiceless. So since my journey began 6 years ago, I've now been in about 60 countries across 5 continents, and I've done just about everything you can imagine. I feel really blessed to have been able to serve overseas. And one of the valuable lessons that I've learned is that life isn't about titles or money or the things that I acquire. It's really about what I can give back to community, how I can serve others.
If anybody deserved consideration for the death penalty, it was Gary Ridgway. But it was deserving of my careful thought. And I thought about it over about a 2-3 week period of time. Not wringing my hands, but you know, at times thinking about it. And when I first thought about the case, is that all I could think about was Gary Ridgway. And he deserved no mercy at all. But as the time went by, and after talking to some victims' families and so on, I started thinking about the victims and the victims' families in these dozens and dozens of cases that had never been solved. And in the final analysis, the reason why I accepted the plea was not that Gary Ridgway deserved a break, is that the victims' families deserved a break. And so then eventually Gary Ridgway pleaded guilty to 48 counts, and those cases were resolved. And when I made that public announcement, I think across the board it was accepted by both conservatives and liberals, pro-death penalty, anti-death penalty, because they understood the basis for the decision. Not Gary Ridgway deserving anything, but the families deserving something.
So I say to you today, my friends, let us stand, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here's your friend, we are now turned. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. then yours in right away.
We will come together to promote stability and keep our airlines flying with direct assistance during this emergency.
We all must take precautionary measures. If love and peace you treasure, then you'll hear me when I say, oh, let's go.
I'm thankful for being alive here today, and I'm glad our country's free.
People, you know that love.
Now, what brought you to Seattle?
And when the Seattle Art Museum was looking for a director in 1994, a headhunter called me and asked me if I would be interested. And I said yes. And I still can remember visiting Seattle and looking out over Lake Washington and seeing the water shimmer in the sun. And that image remained firmly stuck in my mind. And I also had come to love fly fishing. And so the Northwest was a natural place to be drawn.
So how long have you been married to Bill Gates Sr.?
Almost 10 years.
Wow, and how did you meet?
Through friends. We just, they introduced us, and he had recently lost his first wife, who was a tremendous woman. And I had been divorced for about 5 years, and I had completely given up any idea of ever remarrying. And we just hit it off, and we lived together for a year before we were married because we thought we were both old enough. And he actually asked my mother if she approved of us living together. And she said, "I understand, but I don't approve." So she said, you know, I'm of my generation, but she was very fond of Bill, and so it all worked out.